Today, we're really diving into something quite profound. The early spiritual life of Sri Ramakrishna. We're focusing specifically on that intense period, that yearning, leading up to his very first vision of the Divine Mother.
And we're drawing mainly from the biography, Life of Sri Ramakrishna, which gives us such a vivid account.
Exactly. And for you, listening in, perhaps trying to get your head around complex ideas quickly, this is really a way to understand the sheer dedication, the kind of transformative power behind a major spiritual figure.
It's quite something, isn't it? That singular focus he had, even early on. The biography really brings that consuming desire to life.
Absolutely. So let's set the scene a bit. This is after he's appointed as a priest, right? Maybe his early to mid-20s.
Right, the period, yes. And crucial point, he wasn't just, going through the motions of worship.
No. His whole approach, even then at the Radha Govinda temple, was different. He treated the image as actually divine, alive.
Yes, with this incredible reverence. And the biography mentions specific things happening during his worship, during mantra chanting.
Like what, specifically?
Well, things like seeing a wall of fire when chanting Rang, which is meant for protection. And, fascinatingly, feeling the Kundalini energy actually rising through the 6 centers, the chakras.
Wow. So not just theoretical concepts for him.
Not at all. These were felt experiences, palpable. He wasn't just thinking about Kundalini, he was feeling it move.
Okay, let's pause there. For our listeners interested in consciousness, this is key, isn't it? The idea of Kundalini, this dormant energy rising and activating higher states, he seems to have experienced that directly.
Precisely. And people noticed. The biography says observers were struck by his concentration, the radiance about him. They felt they were seeing Brahmanahood, that essential spiritual power made manifest.
So a stark contrast to the perhaps more routine worship of others around him.
Definitely. And this naturally led him towards, solitude. His brother Ram Kumar started getting worried.
Right, because Ramakrishna was spending more time alone. Walking in the temple gardens, meditating for hours.
Exactly. He was becoming indifferent to worldly things, which, understandably, caused concern for his family. That wasn't the expected path.
Did he resist formal structures entirely, though? Because he did get initiated, didn't he?
He did, yes, by Kanarampacharya. But even that event was quite telling.
How so?
The moment he received the sacred mantra, he apparently plunged into such deep concentration that his guru was just astonished.
So that focus, that ability to go deep, it was already incredibly developed.
It seemed so. Like the potential was just waiting for that spark.
Yeah.
It wasn't a slow buildup, it was immediate, intense absorption.
And then Mathur Babu enters the picture more prominently. He asks Ramakrishna to take over the worship of Kali.
Yes, Mathur, who became such a key figure, a supporter. And Ramakrishna initially hesitated, didn't he? Said he didn't know the specific procedures.
But Mathur saw something deeper.
He did. He had faith in Ramakrishna's devotion, believing that sincere connection was more vital than just knowing the exact ritual steps.
That really speaks volumes about both of them, actually. Mathur's insight and Ramakrishna's evident spiritual power.
It really does. It suggests that authentic spiritual feeling can sometimes bypass the need for rigid formalism.
Then comes a really pivotal moment, the deeply personal one, the death of his brother, Ram Kumar.
Ah, yes. That was huge. Ramakrishna had already lost his father young, and Ram Kumar was more than just a brother. He was almost a father figure, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And given that Ramakrishna was already contemplating the fleeting nature of life, this loss must have just amplified everything.
Intensely. Loss often does that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It forces you to confront impermanence, to search for what is permanent, what's real. For him, it sharpened his focus on finding God, the imperishable.
And Kali became the embodiment of that quest.
She did. The biography gives his incredible description of the Kali image he worshipped, adorned with Benares cloth, ornaments, that garland of skulls, the girdle of severed arms.
Yeah, the sword in one hand, a decapitated head in another. But also hands offering boons and fearlessness. It's that whole spectrum.
Exactly. The terrible and the beautiful, the destructive and the benevolent, that complex totality seemed to resonate deeply. For Ramakrishna, it wasn't stone. It was the mother.
A living presence.
The living presence he had a deeply personal relationship with.
And as this intensified, he withdrew even more.
Yes, his sensitivity just skyrocketed. He found worldly interactions difficult, almost painful. He'd spend afternoons alone, and then the nights. The nights were for intense meditation in the Panchavati.
That dense jungle area which was also a former cremation ground. That adds another layer of intensity.
It really does. A place resonant with death and transition. He'd meditate there for hours under an amolika tree.
You mentioned his family was worried, his nephew, Friday, in particular.
Yes, Friday became quite concerned, understandably. He saw his uncle wasn't sleeping, disappearing into the woods at night. He actually tried spying on him.
Even through stones, apparently. Trying to see if he was really there or just imagining things.
He did. Until he finally found Ramakrishna deep in meditation, completely naked, without even his sacred thread.
Whoa, okay, that must have been shocking for Friday. How did Ramakrishna explain that? Removing the sacred thread.
He explained it in terms of needing absolute freedom when contemplating God. He spoke of the eightfold fetters, things like shame, hatred, fear, caste pride, ego that bind us.
So the thread, a symbol of social identity and duty, was one of those fetters he needed to discard in that state of deep communion.
Precisely. To be utterly free of limitation, even symbolic ones, when approaching the divine. It shows how radical his practice was becoming.
And this pursuit wasn't just quiet meditation, was it? There was immense emotional expression.
Oh, absolutely. Devotional songs were incredibly important. They would unlock these waves of emotion in him. He'd weep intensely, uncontrollably, feeling the pain of separation from the mother.
The biography quotes his cries, "O mother, where art thou? Reveal thyself to me." Just raw longing.
Yes, like a child crying for its mother. It wasn't abstract. It was a visceral, gut-wrenching need for her presence.
And it manifested physically, too. You mentioned him rubbing his face on the ground earlier.
Yes, in agony. People saw this and, as we said, just assumed he was mourning a human loss. They couldn't fathom this level of spiritual yearning.
Did he ever doubt during this time? Did he question if the mother was real?
He did. There were moments of profound doubt, questioning everything, the existence of the mother, the reality of religion itself. It shows the human struggle within the divine quest.
But he didn't stay in doubt.
No. He would then remember the lives and experiences of saints and devotees throughout history who had realized God, who had seen the divine, and that would strengthen his resolve, his conviction that it was possible.
He felt life was unbearable without that realization.
Completely. His inner thoughts, recorded later, show this profound sense that life had no real meaning or purpose without connecting to that eternal source of bliss, the Divine Mother. Why live, he felt, if not for that ultimate union?
He later called this period his madness for the mother, didn't he?
He did. A divine madness. He compared his state to a thief obsessing over gold, just beyond a thin wall, that constant consuming focus. It was this unwavering faith, despite the agony and doubt, that kept him going.
Which brings us to the edge, the culmination of all this. His first vision. Things got even more intense just before it, right?
Yes, he reached a point where he couldn't even perform the daily worship properly. He was behaving erratically, consumed by this one single need to see her now.
Crying out, asking why Ramprasad, another famous Kali devotee, received her grace, but he hadn't.
Exactly. That desperate plea, that comparison, seems to mark the absolute peak of his unbearable yearning, the breaking point.
And his own description of what happened next, it's staggering.
It is. He talks about this excruciating pain, like his heart was literally being squeezed like a wet towel, overwhelming restlessness, the terror that he might die without seeing her in this life.
And then the impulse, reaching for the sword kept in the temple.
Yes, to end his life, believing it was unbearable to continue without her revelation, an act of ultimate desperation.
But in that exact moment,
In that instant, as he reached for the sword, suddenly the vision. The Blessed Mother revealed herself. He lost all outward consciousness, falling to the floor.
and what did he experience then?
He described it as being engulfed in waves of undiluted bliss, a completely new sensation, profound joy, and this unmistakable feeling, this knowledge of the mother's presence within him.
A total transformation.
Absolutely, not just seeing something external, but being filled by it.
He also described it differently at other times, didn't he? More cosmically.
Yes, another account describes it as the entire temple, the world itself, disappearing. Everything dissolved into a limitless, infinite ocean of light. Of consciousness or spirit.
Rushing towards him.
Rushing towards him, engulfing him with a terrifying roaring sound until he was completely submerged and lost consciousness.
Two descriptions, same core experience of being overwhelmed by the divine.
It seems so. Whether he perceived the specific form of Kali within that ocean of light at that exact moment is perhaps less critical than the impact, because when he regained some awareness,
He cried out, "Mother! Mother!"
exactly, that connection, that relationship was central however the vision manifested.
And this wasn't a one-off event. The connection remained.
It did. But the intense desire for repeated visions continued. He would still cry, roll on the ground in yearning if the experience faded. But he also reported many subsequent visions.
What were those like?
He described seeing her standing there, radiant, sometimes smiling, talking, consoling him, teaching him, granting boons. It became an ongoing dialogue.
And during these moments, he was oblivious to anything else.
Completely detached from his surroundings, lost in that divine communion. People could be right there, but he wouldn't register their physical presence.
So let's kind of wrap this part up. What are the big takeaways here for someone listening trying to understand this?
I think fundamentally it's about the sheer, almost unbelievable intensity of devotion Sri Ramakrishna embodied. That focused yearning wasn't casual, it consumed his entire being.
And that intensity led directly to this life-altering first vision, an experience that didn't just pass, but profoundly reshaped his consciousness, his path, and ultimately his teachings.
Definitely. It fueled everything that came after. And maybe connecting back to, the listener's own drive to understand things, to have those aha moments.
Yeah.
Well, this story highlights the immense power of unwavering focus and faith. Maybe not always comfortable, certainly not in his case, but potentially leading to profound breakthroughs when that dedication hits a critical mass.
That's a really interesting provocation for us to end on. Think about that kind of intense yearning, whatever your field is. Intellectual pursuits, creative work, maybe your own spiritual path.
Right. Could that kind of single-minded focus, that deep, driving need to know or need to experience, could that unlock something profound for you?
It's definitely food for thought. The potential hidden in extreme dedication.
A powerful idea.
We absolutely encourage everyone listening to explore Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings further. If this sparked your interest, there's so much more. But for now, that's our deep dive. Keep asking those big questions.
And keep that passionate curiosity alive. Until next time.
I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.